The night was lively as I stepped into the grand, lavish hall where my company's CEO, Richard, was hosting a party. The air buzzed with laughter, and every guest seemed to have a companion for the evening. I felt out of place, but thought mingling with my colleagues might help my career, or at least wouldn't hurt. As the evening went on, I wandered upstairs. The rooms were dimly lit, and soft music filtered out from behind closed doors. My curiosity got the better of me, and I opened one of the doors. There, on a plush bed, lay my wife, Elena. But she wasn't alone. The man with her was none other than Richard, my boss. The image burned itself into my mind, and I stood frozen, paralyzed by shock. Elena, my wife of 5 years, was laughing, completely lost in the moment, unaware that I stood just feet away watching. Richard eventually noticed me. His expression shifted from surprise to anger as realization dawned on him. His shock turned into menace. He sneered, grabbed his jacket, and pulled out a gun. "Leave her," he said, his voice low and icy. "If you don't, this bullet," he paused, showing me the loaded gun, "will find its way into your skull." I felt numb, unable to process what was happening. Without a word, I left the room and the party, broken but fueled by a newfound fire of hatred and revenge. The days that followed were agonizing. Elena came home as if nothing had happened, still wearing her mask of innocence. I barely spoke to her, but the betrayal hung in the air like thick smoke. She had chosen the very man who held power over my career, using our life as her playground. Every time I saw her, the memory of that night replayed in my mind. Elena noticed my change in behavior and asked what was wrong, but I brushed her off each time. How could I possibly tell her that I had seen everything? Instead of confronting her, I began gathering evidence. I took pictures of her as she left for business dinners and checked our bank accounts. Patterns started to emerge. Elena wasn't just my wife. She was leading a double life, and Richard was giving her the means to do it. My hatred grew darker. I wasn't going to let them keep walking all over me. If they wanted to play games, I would be the one to end it. Every evening, I strategized, piecing together their schedules, habits, and weaknesses. It didn't take long to learn that Richard had a penchant for risky investments and that his company was teetering on the edge of financial collapse, that a few accidental tips to the press, a rumor here, a leaked document there, and Richard's empire began to crumble. I suspected Elena's loyalty would vanish just as quickly, but the plan wasn't enough. I needed a finale, something unforgettable, something irreversible. Richard had threatened me once, made me fear for my life, but he underestimated how resilient I could be. I reached out to Alex, a college friend who now specialized in cybersecurity. He had no idea why I wanted access to Richard's personal files, but he agreed to help. Within days, I had access to confidential financial records, shady deals, and enough incriminating information to destroy Richard's life. Using an anonymous tip, I started feeding the data to online tabloids and journalists who thrived on scandals involving powerful men. Rumors about Richard's questionable practices began circulating in the media. At work, I could see the tension etched on his face, but he had no idea who was behind it. One night, Elena confronted me, furious. "You've been cold, distant. If you have something to say, say it," she demanded. For a moment, I considered spilling everything. The betrayal, the plans I'd been crafting, but I held back. "You'll find out soon enough, Elena," I said calmly. The fear in her eyes was unmistakable. Then, in a twist of fate, the press broke the story. Richard's shady financial deals were under federal investigation. Within hours, his assets were frozen and the company's stock plummeted. Richard was a broken man, his empire reduced to ashes. I watched as the fallout consumed them both. Elena tried to reconnect, sensing her world collapsing around her, but I refused her. Then one night, I sent her a single message. I saw everything that night. I knew the truth all along when she read it. She knew she had lost everything. It was over. As for Richard, he was left to face the consequences of his actions, with nothing but his shattered empire and tarnished name. My revenge was complete. For the first time, I felt truly free. With Richard's empire in ruins and Elena facing the cold truth, an unexpected peace settled over my life. I was surprised by the calm that enveloped me. I had spent months consumed by anger and betrayal, planning every step of my revenge. Now that it was over, the weight I had been carrying lifted that I finally felt in control. Elena moved out shortly after receiving my message. She didn't try to explain, didn't apologize. I think she knew there was no point. We were both left standing in the ruins of what we once called a marriage, but it felt more like liberation than loss. At work, people whispered about Richard's downfall. The once intimidating figure now seemed small and defeated, avoiding eye contact with everyone. He tried to save face, but the truth was out. His reputation, career, and control were gone. I kept my head down, knowing my actions had cut him deeper than any confrontation ever could. As days turned into weeks, I began to feel something unexpected, a faint spark of hope. Richard's absence opened up opportunities at work, and I was offered a promotion. Ironically, his downfall allowed my career to flourish. In my personal life, I started reconnecting with friends I had lost touch with. For so long, I had been isolated, tangled in the web of my own suspicions and hurt. Now, with Elena gone, I felt lighter, free from her deception and the shame of being betrayed by my own wife and boss. One evening, I invited Alex over for dinner. As we sat together, laughing about old times, I realized how far I had come from the person I was before. This wasn't the life I had planned, but maybe it could be a new start, a better one. Months later, I saw Elena by chance in a small cafe downtown. She looked tired and worn out, a shadow of the vibrant woman she had once been. She didn't notice me, but I watched her for a moment. There was no anger left, no lingering pain. What I felt was something I hadn't expected: pity. As I walked away, I realized that revenge wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of a life without lies and betrayal. I had faced the darkest parts of myself and come out stronger. For the first time in a long time, I felt whole.